First Unitarian Church of Hamilton is situated upon the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. This land is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which was an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe to share and care for the resources around the Great Lakes. As settlers, we continue to benefit from the land and its gifts, and must ask ourselves how or if we have shared and cared for the earth and its gifts with integrity and reverence. My name is Stephen Atkinson, and I have the pleasure of leading this service today. I'd like to thank all, or I hope all, of those who are working to present worship. Musicians Rachel Derry, Cindy Carey, and our Hamilton Zoom choir. Religious educator Tim Versteeg, who's doubling as part of our tech team, which also includes Bruce McPherson today. And of course, our interim minister, the Reverend Jamie Boyce. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey of faith or search for meaning, today you are one of us, and you are welcome into our virtual worship space. Our mission is to nurture one another, serve the community, and inspire action to heal the world. And so we gather as we are able again, entering November, truly the month of letting go. We begin with color still in the landscape, sun shining, and brisk breezes, yet we prepare for change. Change we might be eager for, or change we might dread. November is a month of mixtures and unpredictability, just the kind of stuff that spices our lives. Let us enter worship this morning, honoring mixtures and unpredictability and spice.
Good morning. It is a joy to be with you this morning. My name is Reverend Jamie Boyce, and I have the great joy of serving First Unitarian of Hamilton as the interim minister. We light our chalice this morning, bearing witness to this season of change and transformation. We notice a love that holds us even as we are shattered in the midst of change, a love that holds us and embraces us and invites us into the future. Join me as we share these words in unison. May this flame be our light of friendship and love.
Number 86, Blessed Spirit of my life. Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity. Fill me with a vision. Clear my mind of fear and confusion. When my thoughts flow restlessly, let peace find a home in me. Spirit of great mystery, hear the still small voice in me. Help me live my wordless creed as I comfort those in need. Fill me with compassion, be the source of my intuition.
Our story for all ages today is Memoirs of a Tortoise. April. It's spring. The garden is sunny and warm. I think April is my favorite month of the year. It's a glorious day, and Ike just brought me a plate of lettuce and dandelions and a bright, crunchy apple. Ike is my pet. I love Ike, and Ike loves me. He runs his hand across my shell and tells me so. This is life, and it's beautiful. May. It rained last night. The whole garden is fresh and new, and I can smell the gardenias and the lilacs. 80 times I've watched spring arrive in the garden, and it's always perfect. Ike throws a stick and says, "Oliver, fetch." But we just laugh because we both know I'm not chasing a silly stick. We do this every day. I think there's a hibiscus blooming on the other side of the garden. I'll go look. June. Wow, what a trip. All the way across the garden, and now I'm sitting in a forest of hibiscus. I like to take my time in the garden. Ike is like me, he takes his time. My mother always says the whole world is in a hurry and they miss so much. I'm not missing anything, including the honeydew melon Ike gave me this morning. Don't tell Ike, but I would definitely fetch honeydew melon. July. Ike is sitting under his favorite sycamore tree reading a book. I'm next to him, and this is my favorite time of all, just me and Ike in this beautiful garden. How long can we sit here? How about forever? Forever would be fine with me. August. It's hot today. Ike fills the baby pool and splashes me with water. Now I'm soaking wet, and I try to pretend I'm angry. But Ike just laughs, and that makes me laugh, and so we laugh together. A banana for dinner. Night takes over, and Ike looks up at all the stars in the sky and whistles. September. Life slows down this time of year. The days are getting shorter. There's a coolness in the breeze. Even Ike is slower. He's taking lots of naps in the garden. That's okay with me. I watch a leaf fall from the sycamore, and I decide I'm going to surprise Ike. Next time he throws a stick, I'm going to fetch it. He won't believe it. October, fall is here. It's time to put the baby pool and the garden hose away, but no one does. I haven't seen Ike for a few days. He hasn't brought me anything to eat. It's okay. I can eat some of the pumpkin in the garden. But where is Ike? November. I'm afraid Ike is gone. People have come to visit and they're very sad, and that makes me sad. Ike was still so young. He was 80 years old, just like me. We were practically twins. I thought we were going to grow old together. Ike, where have you gone? December. My mother is 137 years old. Sometimes I think she knows everything. It's a long way to her garden, but I think she's the only one I can talk to. If anyone knows why Ike left me, it's my mother. January. There are 10 gardens between my mother and me. I used to tell my mother that I wished I could fly, and she would say, "You can have a shell or you can have wings, but you can't have both." I don't know. I think some beetles have both, but I don't want to be a beetle, so I keep walking. February. Today I'm in my mother's garden. Mother is sitting in the one sunbeam that cuts through the clouds. She has a lot of wrinkles and her shell is worn and smooth. When she sees me, she smiles wide and her eyes sparkle. Mother, I'm so sad. Ike is gone. Oh, Oliver, she says, Ike loved you so very much. But mother, I say, why do we have to lose people? Why couldn't Ike stay with me? Mother smiles. She closes her eyes and raises her head to the sun. We only get to have pets in our lives for a little while, she says. They don't live as long as we do. So we have to enjoy them every day. And when they're gone, We count all those beautiful days we were lucky enough to have them with us. We're so lucky. March, I'm on my way back to my garden. Every step I take, I think about what Mother said. I know she's right. She's always right. But I don't think my garden will ever be the same. April, I'm back home. Yes, back home, and it feels like where I belong. For the 81st time, spring has come to my garden. And as I look at the sycamore tree, I hear the door, and without thinking, I turn to look for Ike. But Ike isn't there. It's Ted. Ted is Ike's son. He is bringing me a tray of lettuce and dandelions and a bright, crunchy apple. He runs his hand along my shell and says, "I'm so glad you came home, Oliver. It's you and me now." He picks up a stick and says, "You want to play fetch?" And for the first time in a long time, I laugh. I think April is my favorite month of the year. And this, for me and Ted, this is life. Mother was right. I'm so lucky.
I invite you now to enter a time of silent meditation, contemplation, or prayer, as is your practice. Make sure you are sitting in a comfortable position and able to sit comfortably with your eyes open or closed as you choose to do. We have 2 poems to punctuate our meditation this morning. So there'll be a poem and then a period of silence, and a second poem and a second period of silence. The first is simply titled Poem by the late Spanish poet Juan Ramón Jiménez. It so simply describes one side of letting go. Consider this. I am like a distracted child whom they drag by the hand through the fiesta of the world. My eyes cling sadly to things. And what misery when they tear me away from them. Our second poetic punctuation mark is from Lucille Clifton, Lesson of the Falling Leaves. The leaves believe such letting go is love. Such love is faith. Such faith is grace. Such grace is God. I agree with the leaves.
In the quiet and the stillness of the morning, in the quiet and the stillness of the day, in this quiet holy place, I find blessed peace within. In the quiet and the stillness of the morning. In the quiet and the stillness of the morning, in the quiet and the stillness of the day, in this quiet holy place, I find blessed peace within. In the quiet and the stillness of the morning. In the quiet and the stillness of the morning, peace within, in the quiet and the stillness of the morning.
You'll notice this morning that I'm streaming to you from a different spot in our building. It's with sadness that I share that last night our building was broken into. When I arrived this morning, there was glass shattered everywhere, and the police were just arriving to record and investigate. Our property team has been here for the last few hours, cleaning up, and our staff, Bruce and Tim, have provided conversations to the police, and we are assessing a strategy to make our building safe for the days and hours ahead. I share this news, and I invite compassion into our hearts and gratitude for all those who arrived this morning to help and support and clean up and do the work of repair. When our spiritual home is violated, it hurts. We hurt. I hurt. And it is natural to feel angry. Let our anger guide us towards action, towards vision, and not steer us away from our capacity for compassion and love. And let us keep gratitude close, knowing that no one is hurt. Everything is fine. And we have committed teams of people here who are helping us recover. Let us hold a moment of silence as we take in this news and hold gratitude for those who arrived this morning to help with the work of cleaning up and bearing witness to the shattered glass, the brokenness. As you can tell, our theme this morning is letting go and transitions. Letting go is always a place of transition, of moving from one thing to another. And transitions are hard, especially this morning, seeing the shattered glass hurt my soul. And I realized the most important thing in the world to me right now was to gather with you in our building as a community of Unitarian Universalists, to huddle in the warmth and the vision of our shared values. Transitions can be challenging, and the moments between leaving and arriving, coming and going, can fill our days with anxiety, angst, and frustration. And while the origin of this talk today is in a deep listening to the change we witness as the seasons change here in Lower Ontario, it is also a reflection on the changes in our congregation and in the wider world. Like many of you, I am inspired and learning from the wonder of the natural world around me. The miracle of creation always humbles and amazes me with delight in life and living. And I feel called to keep bearing witness to the great mystery that holds us all. Every season shows us something new and spectacular about life. And the transition is also really hard. In the fall, we are back to school, back to work. We're getting winter tires, which I heard this morning, there's a shortage of winter tires in Canada. We have to find our winter coats And we have to say goodbye to long days of sunshine, although it's blessing me this morning. Yesterday on my walk, I found myself passing through a tumble of leaves falling from a tree, a waterfall of color. A breeze was passing through and swept the leaves off their branches. I lifted up my hands to catch them like crunchy raindrops on my fingertips. They floated down around me and I passed underneath the tree branches, reaching out across the street, and I took in the sunlight and that familiar, crisp, rich, earthy leaf smell. And I thought about how sometimes I am the leaf that's letting go gently without resistance. And sometimes I am the leaf who has to be blown off the tree by a strong wind. And sometimes, more often than I care to admit, I am the last leaf clinging to the tree. Long after the first freeze of winter and all my leaf friends are bundled into happy piles beneath bare branches, I am there, clinging to the past. As the leaves tickled my fingertips, I felt the cold chill of winter pass through me. Change is always arriving. Our readings this morning and the meditation invite us more deeply into this tension, the grace of letting go and the clinging and resistance we might feel as life tugs us by the arm into the future, away from the celebration of life. The dilemma of our humanity is that we are alive inside the grace and love of letting go, like the leaves on the tree, and the misery of being dragged away by life into the future. Our childlike selves are distracted by all that life has to offer, and we are pulled away by a loving parent. I love how Lucille Clifton's poem connects letting go to love, grace, and God in a circle of life that is beautiful and mysterious. The romanticism we might notice in her turn towards grace and God is not saccharine. It's a naming of love that knows no bounds. I find this poem attuned to a universalism that harmonizes with a mysticism that can name love and grace for all of us. The falling leaves teach us about life and death, and in a way that turns us towards the future in the midst of death. Hope sits there in the midst of grace, holding us. And this is not a message of simplicity. Lucille Clifton was not a poet of the sentimental. She was a poet of the real, of the heart facing sadness, disappointment, and even and often the horrors of life. This poem is beautifully set against Jimenez's poem, his image of a small child being pulled away from the fiesta of life by a parental hand, and yet is self-aware of the futility of clinging. Life will take us away from the things we long for, the things that delight us, and our sad eyes will betray our knowing. It is misery indeed to break away from the things that fascinate us and thrill us. How do we cope with the complexity of change, the hard parts of letting go, of releasing the things we love, the things that are familiar, the things we know, the things we think to be true? How do we cope with the complexity of change? Notice ourselves welcoming change and transformation while also acknowledging the grief that lives within us as we practice moving with the seasons of life, embracing both the romance and the struggle for romance, perhaps. You'd think that moving through COVID would prepare us, and perhaps we are more agile and resilient, but we remain human. We remain our clinging selves, excited to stay with the shiny objects that catch our attention. Life is a thrill. Thich Nhat Hanh has a beautiful and helpful reflection on the sutra for knowing a better way to live alone. The sutra, which was a commentary addressed to a monk who abandoned society to practice alone, is addressed at this idea that being alone is a solution to the hard parts of being alive, to the clinginess that our humanity lures us into. According to the story, the monk was reported, and we only know him in the story as the Venerable, and called forward to account for his choice to live alone. And the sutra reads, do not pursue the past. Do not lose yourself in the future. The past no longer is. The future has not come. Looking deeply at life as it is in the very here and now, the practitioner dwells in stability and freedom. We must be diligently in today. To wait till tomorrow is too late. Death comes unexpectedly. How can we bargain with it? The sage calls a person who dwells in mindfulness night and day the one who knows a better way to live alone. I love the message of this sutra, and there's a humor inside of it. The Buddha reminds the monk that although he may steal away to live alone, isolated from other people, you're never really alone. The problem is not necessarily other people. The problem are the voices and the stories and the escape habits into the past and future. We are left with a question at the end of the sutra. Why is this the better way to live alone? When we hear Thich Nhat Hanh reflect on this, we discover that it isn't necessarily, again, the other people. It's the presence of ourselves as our mind is drawn into the past, the future, and even overly preoccupied with the present as we cling to what we think is happening. We know this feeling, don't we, when we find ourselves drifting into the future, imagining all the things that can go wrong, all the things that have yet to happen, and we miss the life right in front of us. The call of life right in front of us. Transitions and letting go is hard, and we might consider how we show up to the present moment as a way to manage our frustration, our distress, our misery, and even our delight as we are captivated by the things that thrill us. Thich Nhat Hanh invites us to notice that there is a way to manage change and letting go. We can show up to the present moment, attuned and open to the experience, managing and greeting the past and the future as they arrive as part of our inherited human habit. And we can do this with ease and grace without judgment. This is simply a habit of being human. Through practice, We can keep arriving to the present moment, keep arriving to the here and now, keep returning to our one true home here together. It seems so easy, and I know, I know it's not. When we greet the stories that are hard for us and we greet the moments of anxiety, it is tempting to pull away, it is tempting to escape, and sometimes touching is just enough. Sometimes touching brings us through. We can greet these moments that intrude into the present moment with a welcome and say, hello, future. I know you. You are the habit of the future coming to visit in the present. We can notice the past distracting us when we are trying to be truly present for those we are caring for our partners, for our children, for those we love. And we can say to the past, hello, past, I remember you. And return and shift and be fully present to the here and now. The lesson is pretty simple. We're never really alone. We're always with ourselves, and even that is complicated. Our habits of rushing into the future or rushing into the past or even obsessing with the present is distracting, takes us away, makes letting go so much harder. If the purpose of mindfulness is to help us to recognize this habit energy and interrupt us, it is also there to help us and help each other as we disrupt habits that are harmful. In one of his reflections, Thich Nhat Hanh invites us to open towards each other and share with each other such careful words of friend. I notice your habit energy is here to visit. And this can engage a conversation that shifts and returns us to compassion and care when we can share in a conversation around change, around letting go, around shifting the way we are in habits together. This simple phrase I find so powerful. Dearest friend, I notice your habit energy has arrived. I know there are plenty of times when that could have. I wish it were shared with me. When I am worried, afraid, or clinging to the present in a way that doesn't allow me to be fully aware, I invite these moments of change and transformation. And I invite those around me to invite me back to the present moment so I can arrive. I can touch the wonder of life right here, right now, and know the love, grace, and God of the falling leaves as they arrive in this moment. Transitions can be hard, letting go can be hard. There isn't any denying the truth of that experience. And yet there are also opportunities to see ourselves and see each other, see our habits with greater clarity as we get increasingly curious about the wonder of life. In the days ahead, let us practice together, returning to the present moment, rediscovering the wonder of life, rediscovering each other, rediscovering the truth of this beloved community as it carves a path to the future. May this season of letting go continue to inspire and transform us, and may we be nourished as we huddle into our winter beings. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. I invite you to relish in this, our next hymn, which is Rachel singing Comfort Me.
Hymn number 1002, Comfort Me. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Go, beloveds, into the world full of grace and love, discovering a practice of letting go, of release and renewal. May we be flushed with excitement in this season of change, and may we discover life right here, right now. I extinguish this chalice, but not the fire in our hearts, until we meet again.
the people.